40 years. That's half a lifetime. 2 generations. As many as 10 U.S. presidents. When a couple has been married 40 years, they celebrate with gifts of rubies. But what does a ministry do? If you're the Bible Broadcasting Network, you pause for just a moment to reflect on all that God has done. You acknowledge that God built a team of staff and listeners who are committed to Him and united with the goal of taking the whole Word to the whole world. And you boldly proclaim, "To God be the glory, great things He hath done."
So we could have no way imagined.
This is God's ministry.
So He just put it together. I couldn't say I put anything together.
Let's begin a little farther than 40 years back with a B-36 bomber mechanic and Korean War veteran stationed in Rapid City, North Dakota. It was there, alone in a barracks, that Airman Lowells Davy opened his Bible to John 3:3 and knelt beside a bunk to place his faith in Jesus Christ. What a transformation.
And I got so excited, I went out to work the next day, and I was up and all through that airplane and walk on the wings. I was preaching, talking, telling people what happened. I'm sure it probably looked like I was way out in left field, but I was so excited what God had done.
Lowell quickly sensed God's call to full-time service and began to prepare for ministry. After graduating from Bob Jones University, Lowell continued to pursue evangelism, working part of the year ministering to servicemen in Norfolk, Virginia, through missions to military.
And I would sit there and I'd talk to them. I'd witness to them, teach them the Bible, all this, so maybe 2 or 3. In fact, I had some nights they never even went to bed. Up all night long, dealing with servicemen and witnessing to them, answering their questions, some of them getting saved.
It was at missions to military where Lowell met a tall, lanky sailor named Judd Mast. They hit it off right away and have served God together ever since. And that wasn't the only lasting relationship to come from those days.
During that time, there were a couple of gals that came in for Bible studies. And one of the girls was Georgie Query, who became Georgie Davy, and the other one was Ann Price, who became Ann Mast. Lowell fell before I did. It took me about a year to catch on and catch up.
There was no question that God was nurturing in Lowell's heart a vision for reaching people. Christian radio became the most efficient means.
Lowell had gotten this burden for radio, and he began going over to the library, going through the books, seeing if there was anything available. You know, he didn't know a whole lot about it, but he knew you had to have a frequency. So he began to look and had found one he thought. He wasn't sure. So we said, okay, what are we going to do?
Well, you know, if anybody sits around, you think about what affects our society today? Mass communication. I mean, as we grew up, what did we do? We listened to radio and then got into television, and it influences the people. And we just saw the power of it, the power of what it could do, not ever thinking that we would ever be involved in it.
The very first offer was made on a station on May 28, 1968. As it worked out, that offer wasn't accepted, but the experience served to make the burden and vision for Christian radio more clear. They continued trying, and the Lord worked miracles. There's no other way to describe how so many insurmountable roadblocks disappeared one by one. There were roadblocks with finances, with other applicants, with lawyers, and with the FCC. But God's plan wasn't going to be thwarted. On Christmas Eve 1970, the telegram arrived saying that their construction permit had been granted. They could begin to build WYFI.
Then I said, now what do I do? But it was just so exciting. It was just an adventure. And don't ask me, you know, how did we know what to do? It was just one step at a time. We worked day and night to get it going. But that's how God did.
The challenges were only beginning. God supplied funding for brand new equipment, but things didn't go as expected.
From the transmitter to every piece of equipment we put in out in Dismal Swamp, not one piece of equipment worked brand new from the factory.
In fact, it took us over a year to get a one. We were in this church there in Norfolk, and we had told them, you know, of course, that we were starting this radio station. And there were people in the church that were very interested, and they'd say, when are you going to start? And Lowell would say, well, it should be within the week. We're just waiting for this one piece of equipment. And it got to the place where we didn't go to church for a little over a month because we were so embarrassed that we weren't on the air yet because we couldn't explain it, but nothing worked.
God used those trials to teach the fledgling ministry about spiritual battles and lay a firm foundation of faith that we continue to stand on today. At last, WYFI signed on at 5 p.m. October 2nd, 1971. And then they had to keep it on.
And I learned right along with the team, but this is radio. And all I basically knew was tape recorders. And if people could have saw what was going on in my side of the microphone, they wouldn't have believed it.
I had never had any experience announcing whatsoever, so I very simply wrote down everything I was going to say. The song would stop, I would open the mic, I would read what I was going to say, I would close the mic, and I would start the music. And that's all there was to it.
Skills developed and new technology emerged, but from the very first day, our philosophy of ministry has not changed. First and foremost, we seek to honor the Lord in all that we do. BBN stations are non-commercial, and we trust God to meet our financial needs through gifts from His people. Broadcasters don't pay for airtime, so teaching can be selected with an unwavering commitment to sound biblical doctrine, not money and contracts. And our music is of the same conservative style that the ministry was founded and built on. We're often asked to explain and re-explain how we operate, but it really is that simple.
I can remember when he was putting it together, we didn't live far from a grocery store, and he said to me more than once, he said, if BBN ever becomes anything other than ministry, I'm going to go bag groceries. He said, I'd rather bag groceries and support my family than to be out of the ministry. He said, BBN is not a job, it's not anything but a ministry.
Not long after WYFI went on the air, Lowell sensed divine leading to expand with a second radio station.
And I saw what God was doing, and the excitement of broadcasting and reaching people, and when a door would open. Don't ask me how it all worked out. It was just said, we need to do that.
They looked in the Triad area of North Carolina, and God once again had to remove insurmountable obstacles. Through tremendous risk and great faith, WHPE signed on in October of 1974. Now with 2 fledgling stations, we were officially a network.